And that's why you check the temperature before you stick it in. Anyways, I'm Mike.
I'm Jim.
And this is Fanboy and the Hater,
A podcast about the best and worst in movies, TV, and pop culture.
Jim,
Mike.
what is your family's murder prayer?
My family's murder prayer? I do not have one.
What, doesn't every family have a murder prayer?
Just because I'm Irish and from Boston, you shouldn't assume that all Irish people from Boston have a long fucking Latin murder prayer. I wonder what movie we're talking about today.
Well, this is attempt number 2 at recording on Boondock Saints.
Not attempt number 1 on doing Boondock Saints 2. That
Correct.
would be a completely different recording.
Yes. Attempt number 1 got somehow accidentally deleted, so attempt number 2.
The technology realized how much of a dumpster fire this movie is and tried to prevent us from releasing this episode.
Well, we know what you think about it already. So, a little bit of history here. I have seen this movie 100 times. Who knows how many times. I've seen it a lot. I don't remember the first time I saw it, but it was probably not long after it came out in 1999. It was probably 2002 or something when I first saw it.
I mean, this was a nearly direct-to-DVD movie. It did appear in 5 movie theaters very briefly in 1999, but it got pulled, along with a lot of movies at that time, because of the Columbine high school shooting. Movies that had anything to do with gun violence were pulled from theaters. So for a very, very brief time, it would be very, very difficult for anyone to have actually seen this movie in the theater. So it almost was literally direct to DVD. So most people probably saw it a few years after 1999 when it came out. I myself have seen this movie a grand total of 1 time in 2026.
Well, in mine, I probably telling of me and my personal state of mind at the time, but it was I becoming friends with somebody that I worked with, and we were kind of talking every once in a while, and I had mentioned something about really liking movies, and she'd asked me if I'd seen this movie, and I said no, and she went, yeah, you definitely will like this movie, and let me borrow the DVD, and I immediately bought the DVD afterwards, after I saw it. And again, going back to, I know I mentioned a bunch of times, but I mean, there's a long period in my life where I just was broke. So everything was watching the same DVDs over and over, and I would just slowly add to the DVD collection rather than having cable TV.
That makes sense. It's weird that I never heard of this. I mean, for the longest time, and this makes no sense, but I had this movie and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels confused. Another movie which I have not seen.
And doesn't make sense on why you would have them confused.
Again, it makes no sense. But there were movies that involved gun violence that were kind of cult classic-y type movies that I had heard of. But why I hadn't heard of this is weird, because like I said before, I'm Irish and I'm from Boston. So you'd think I would have at least heard of this movie, but for whatever reason I didn't. And again, since it would be almost impossible to see in the theater, I would have had to, back then, rent the DVD, because streaming services weren't a thing yet. So yeah, I just never saw this movie. Nor did anyone in my circle of friends ever talk about it. So I don't know if anyone I knew even had seen it.
I don't even know how the person that turned me on to it knew about it. I think it was a cult classic, but it was kind of an underground cult classic. Like, it wasn't really that popular. It slowly gained popularity as being known over years. But I would say probably the first 10 years it was out, nobody really knew what it was. So kind of starting off, obviously you thought it was a dumpster fire. You absolutely hated it. I like it a lot. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but it's very enjoyable to me.
I just want to get up off the top. It's definitely not a perfect movie. I have 3 categories of things to talk about. I want to get one off the top and out of the way right away, because I don't really think we need to dwell on it too much. Because some other people, maybe like me, may have this opinion. Oh, again, I saw this for the one and only time in 2026. The movie has racist, misogynist, and homophobic undertones. Now, a lot of movies in the 90s did. I did not see it when it came out. I saw it in 2026. So would I have noticed at all or as much if I had seen it closer to 1999? I don't know. The homophobic stuff is harder to ignore. The racist and misogynist stuff happens and then it kind of goes away. But again, it was the 90s. A lot of movies have those problematic elements in them.
Well, I'd also say the racist parts and the misogynistic parts are also shown to be stupid.
Oh yeah,
Like,
I mean,
as they're so, like,
everything in the movie is stupid. I mean,
you know what I mean? Like, it's played off as like, oh, you're being stupid about this, or like the racist part, like it's a bad joke that he's telling. He doesn't even want to be telling the joke. He's kind of forced to tell the joke, and he's forced to tell it in a more racist way than he actually meant to be, which is showing that, like, hey, the bad guys here they're bad on multiple levels,
and all three people involved in that joke get murdered. So hey, it's okay.
And then the misogynistic part, like, it was really like started off just accidental and then blown up, and then they're like, okay, we're just gonna make it ridiculous.
It's very much a guy movie. There's very few female characters in the movie at all. And again, it was the 90s. And again, this is not the only movie that's guilty of this. Pretty much the women are sex workers or called sluts. There are no
that's where you're going with it.
Well, I mean, there are other misogynist elements as well, but for the most part, there's practically no women in the entire movie.
I was thinking at the beginning, there's that joke about the rule of thumb.
There's that, and they also were picking on a woman who is not traditionally attractive in a heterosexual way, which also kind of falls into, again, we don't need to dwell into this. These are things that happen for like 10 seconds, and then it's over. This is not something that... Even the misogynist stuff, I'm talking about bits and pieces, 5 to 10 seconds at a time, poof, it's over. It's not a significant part of the movie.
I think part of this is the fact that I've seen it so many times and you just saw it the one time is probably part of this, because I think if I only saw it one time, I might have the same thought. Having seen it multiple times and like how it plays out, different opinion of it.
Well, I also wasn't enjoying the movie. So I'm more likely to notice something problematic in a movie that I'm not enjoying, where I probably wouldn't have even noticed it if I was enjoying the other parts of the movie. But again, the only thing of the problematic elements that even the really bad racist joke is a very extended scene. But after that, it kind of normal 90s racism. The misogynist stuff, again, goes by very, very fast. The only thing that is the most problematic is the homophobia around the Willem Dafoe character. But again, it's the 90s.
And it was just kind of playing on like what it would be like in the 90s at the time.
That, again, I don't really think it's worth going down this road. Again,
this
is not why
right.
I don't like the movie. But I just wanted to get that out of the way up the top. If there are people who have seen this movie and don't like it because it has problematic elements, I just want to acknowledge, yes, I'm acknowledging it. I noticed it. It's not why I think the movie's bad.
Yeah. And I was just saying those parts, they're there. But I think if you really look at it and think about how it's done and why it's done, it's not as problematic as it initially appears.
You're closer to the movie than I am. You have a greater affinity for the movie than I am. I greatly dislike the movie and will never watch it again. So I'm never going to gain some appreciation or give it credit for doing something. I think the movie is terrible. So,
and I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just explaining my thought on the one thing.
Your opinion is perfectly valid. I just wanted to get that out of the way. It's like, it was one thing I noticed, but it's not why I didn't like the movie.
I guess moving on to the story, I mean, that's really kind of the main thing that people really like about this movie is the idea of the story, which is that two people are basically taking upon themselves to wipe out the major criminal elements of their area to try to make it a safer place.
Oh yeah, the premise of the movie, which again, I knew very little about it. I just read like the jacket of a DVD when I borrowed the DVD from you to watch the movie. It's an interesting premise. Like I said, two Irish brothers who feel a calling from God to remove violent criminals from the streets of Boston, and then an FBI agent who is chasing them, but then starts to question whether or not he should be trying to arrest them or let them go. That's a very interesting premise for a movie.
Yeah, and that's really what draws a lot of people into it, because it's a lot of... And they show it in the movie, too, when they're interviewing people on the streets. Like, hey, what do you think about these guys? And some people are like, absolutely not. These people are criminals as well, and they need to be taken off the streets. Other people are like, hey, they're doing good. They're doing what the cops can't do. More to them. Sign me up. Let me join.
That is literally how the movie ends.
Yep. And
street interviews. Yep.
And there's I think there's another part mid-movie that's very similar to that, where they're kind of doing that as well.
Yeah, the Willem Dafoe character heel turn of we should be letting these guys do what they're doing because they're doing a good thing type of thing. But yeah, I didn't think it was very well executed. I didn't think it was a particularly good writing or acting other than Willem Dafoe for the most part. But the premise is definitely interesting. I would have liked to have seen a version of this movie done by a more experienced writer-director. The writer-director of this movie was a first-time writer-director, a bartender who sold a script to Harvey Weinstein. I'll let that just drop. And basically got to be... I can understand why they bought the screenplay. Why they also let the guy direct it was weird. But I think that the premise of the movie and then taking the screenplay and having it go through a more traditional Hollywood process of more experienced screenwriters and a more experienced director might have been able to make a better movie out of this movie's premise. I don't know. Oh, then again, who knows? Maybe the reason he wrote and directed was because the budget was low.
That's what I was going to say. It's probably because it's an easy sell. Like, we can basically work for free to let him also, direct and write it and everything. And then anything we make is just profits because this is the cheapest movie in the world to make.
Yeah, he got $300,000. He got paid $300,000. I can't imagine that the writer-director did. I can't imagine that the movie, other than paying the actors, especially Willem Dafoe is the biggest name in the movie, other than that, it probably wasn't an expensive movie, I would guess, because it's pretty simple sets and stuff.
Yeah, simple sets, not a whole lot of extra like CGI or effects or anything. Like there's really nothing to it. You can just go out of your backyard and make it.
Exactly. A lot of B-roll footage of areas around Boston in the 90s. So maybe that's why it's not a higher level movie.
Yeah. So what are the parts of the story that you didn't think worked or thought didn't work?
Before, and we're going to get to this at a point, there's a scene that happens just before the halfway point, so to speak, of the movie that pissed me off, which we'll get to. And after that scene, if we weren't doing the movie on the podcast, I would have just stopped watching the movie. But at that point, I started hate watching. But even before then, I was struggling with understanding the tone of the movie. Like, was I supposed to think this was serious? Was I supposed to think this was a farce? Is this a drama? Is this a comedy? Because just like really dumb things happen. Like at the beginning, like one of the pivotal action sequences early on is the Irish brothers get in trouble with Russian gangsters who then show up at their house, handcuff one of the brothers to a toilet seat, then drag the other brother outside to an alley to kill him. And the brother who's handcuffed to the toilet seat rips the toilet seat off the base, goes to the roof of the building, not only throws the toilet seat off of the roof, but then also jumps off of the roof. The toilet seat hits the guy that's about to shoot his brother, and then he lands on the other guy that's also in the alley with a gun. And I was like, is this a comedy? I was like, there was a really dumb sequence. It's like, how am I supposed to interpret that?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of fair. You just don't think about it.
Well, that would be the answer. Because then the very next thing that happens is Willem Dafoe enters the movie in just an over-the-top, awesome Willem Dafoe acting thing. Is like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is wacky. So I was like, and then I was like, okay, is it farcical? I'm not really sure, like, how I was supposed to take it. So I was just confused in terms of, like, the tone and stuff.
I guess that's fair. I never really even thought about it because I just go along for the ride.
You who are big on movie physics had no problem with the dude jumping off the building?
So the reason I didn't have a problem with the dude jumping off the building is because the fall was absorbed by the person he landed on, and then he landed on a pile of trash. And he was like extremely hurt afterwards, where like he had to be basically carried away and everything too. So
for an indeterminate amount of time, which we'll also get to later. But yes, he does appear to be somewhat injured. Yes.
But the part of that did always bother me is how he aimed the toilet when he dropped it. Which, I mean, he could kind of see through the hole.
Well,
but the fact that he was able to like flip it over his handcuffs and land it perfectly, that does bother me a little bit. But I'm like, all right, they're partially luck, I guess. I don't know.
Plus, also, again, there would be no movie if this happened. It's like, why didn't the Russians just shoot them in the head in their apartment and leave? Because then there wouldn't be a movie.
Yeah. and it's a setup to kind of show that, like, okay, they really love each other. They're really gonna go like ends of the earth for each other to protect each other. They're smart enough to try to figure out a way out of situations. That's kind of how I take it. Like, it's kind of a setup for what the rest of the movie is gonna be, where it is a blend of a lot of weird shit.
Because then, again, going back to my confusion about how I was supposed to interpret the theme of the movie, we then seem like Willem Dafoe berating the Boston police about trying to get these dangerous people off the street. We got to figure out who they are. And then the brothers just turn themselves into the police. And after like a brief interview, they obviously conclude that the brothers are heroes and they were acting in self-defense against these dangerous Russian gangsters, and they're anointed saints. And they're getting high fives from the cops. They're bringing them coffee and donuts. They get to spend the night hanging out at the police station, taking a nap, where they have their religious message from God type of thing. It's like, really? They just killed 2 guys, and with no criminal investigation and one brief conversation with William Dafoe, you guys are heroes. You're the saints. I was like, huh?
I don't think they were called heroes or saints at that point.
There was a newspaper article the next morning calling them the Saints.
The Saints, yeah.
Hence the name
for
of the
taking
movie.
out Russian mob members. But it wasn't the cops calling them that. It was
No,
the newspaper.
the newspaper called them that. But the fact
Yeah.
that the cops like didn't even for a moment consider, shouldn't we charge these guys with manslaughter or something? Oh no, they were obviously acting in self-defense. Whereas right before them, like when William Dafoe shows up, he's like, this could be like a gang war. Russian gangsters got killed. We got to figure this out. Oh no, never mind. So I was like, again,
See, that actually completely tracks to me, because they showed like their story fit what he thought might have happened in a way. It fit perfectly. It was in self-defense. It wasn't a gang war between the Russians and the Italians like he thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. So, all right, I guess you guys are free to go until something else comes up. I mean, that all tracks to me.
Okay. Like I said, but I was just more confused. It's like the tone just seems a bit weird. Yeah. And again, the stupidity, the stupidity of the whole toilet off and jumping off the roof thing was done. But again, I also then, not to push ahead too far, the next action-y violent scene is even made fun of in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, so that's what I was like, oh, okay, so this is a comedy? Because like the way that they basically stole the Russians' guns and their money and concealed that from the cops. One of the Russians gets a page or something or a phone call, and they find out where the Russians are going to gather at some hotel, and they decide, because again, in an intermeeting scene, again, it's been a month since the one and only time I saw the movie, so correct me if I'm wrong, but they got their call from God while they were at the police station, right?
Yeah, while they're during their sleepover.
During their sleepover at the police station, they got their call from God. So I guess that's why they decided to go kill the Russians. And they used the money that they got from the Russians to gear up, buy a bunch more guns and equipment and rope, because you obviously need rope. And then they have that really bizarre scene where they like crawl through the ducts and they fall through the ceiling and their feet are all caught up in the rope and they're hanging upside down and they're spinning around, shooting and killing people in a scene that is comical. And then even Willem Dafoe's character is like, whoever did this has seen too many TV shows and movies. Is like, this is not the work of professionals.
Right.
And even one of the brothers is like, oh, it wasn't even like it is in the movies. Nobody tried to jump behind a sofa and stuff.
You gotta shoot him for 20 fucking minutes.
Yeah. So it's like, I was like, oh, so this is a farcical comedy?
Kind of.
But I mean, so that's why I was like, at that point again, I hadn't reached my point where I started hating the movie yet. I was just like, this movie just seems stupid.
But you were, and you were also watching this from a critical standpoint for the podcast. It wasn't for enjoyment.
That is true. The one and only time I watched this was in preparation to record a podcast on it the very next day. So I was doing it. It's like, I got to get I'm only watching it once. It's like, and I'm writing notes. It's like, yeah, I am not watching this to enjoy it. I'm watching it for the podcast.
Yeah. So that's a little bit too. And so during their quote unquote call from God, they hear a voice, they're woken up in the middle of the night, and then they kind of turn to each other, and it's not an exact quote, but one of them says, destroy all that is evil, and then the other one says, so what is good may flourish. So that was kind of their calling, and then they're like, okay, what do we do with that? We don't know. And then, again, the pager kind of falls into their lap. They're like, okay, we have this thing. This is telling us an idea of where to go. Those are evil men. I guess let's go get rid of them. Oh, look, money is also here that we can use in order to get that. And I'll get the fucking rope. I'll get it. Anyways, yeah, but they make fun of itself, and it's also I guess there's a lot of it, and I know we talked about this quite a bit in the first recording attempt of it. Is there is a certain level, like they don't really say it anywhere, but there is a certain level of like, hey, it's a calling from God, and so there is a little bit of like godly protection.
I was just about to go there. It's like maybe that's why he survived jumping off the building, because it's like again, I only saw the movie once, but there's like a weird scene. Like even before any of that happens at the beginning of the movie, where we see that they go to church a lot and they're seen as being important members of the church or something. So there is a religious-y type scene, but they don't get the call until later in the police station. But maybe that's why they survived jumping off the roof. And maybe from that point forward, the reason that they survived with relatively few injuries is because they're protected, because they're on a mission from God.
And the rope just happens to catch just right to put them in just the right position to do what they did and everything. And I think it's an important thing, too, that throughout the movie, there's a lot of like, I can't believe that happened. Why would that ever happen? And it's like, they're not good enough to do that. And they show throughout the movie, they are not good enough to do the things that they're doing, but it just works out. And so that's also kind of a level of like, hey, maybe it is just kind of, by God's hand that they're able to do the things like the falling through the ceiling, and then they each one have two guns and they're upside down and they're shooting everybody in the room extremely accurately. There's no fucking way people that aren't experts in gunplay, I don't want to say gunplay, but you know what I mean. There's no way they'd be able to do that. Absolutely no. Like people that have been shooting their entire lives wouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
And somehow they're able to do this. I guess if we can hit on it now or we can hit on it later, the scene that you absolutely hate kind of shows like they don't really know anything about guns. They're being extremely unsafe with them throughout the whole movie. They're playing with them. They're pointing them at each other. Like they're breaking every gun safety rule across the whole thing. They obviously don't really know what they're doing. They're just figuring it out as they go.
And because they're so inept, I mean, Willem Dafoe's character shows up at the hotel where they did the fall through the ceiling and shoot all the Russians guys, and he does another one because he also did it similarly earlier in the movie with the Russians in the alleyway that they killed with the toilet seat. He understands, he forensically analyzes the scene, understands exactly what happened, and he does the same thing at the hotel. But at no point does anyone think at that point, oh, those Irish brothers did this? Because no one would have thought that because they're not like good at crime or whatever. But he breaks down like what happened and how completely bizarre it happened. Other than saying that obviously these were amateurs, not professionals, because no one would do this way. And how the heck it actually worked, we don't know. So at that point, I was like, okay, this seemed kind of dumb, but Willem Dafoe's kind of chewing the scenery in those two scenes, and he's kind of entertaining because he's Willem Dafoe, aside from the homophobia stuff. But, okay, then we get to the scene that made me fucking hate the movie. So, their friend Rocco, a.k.a. the funny man, who works for the Italian mafia, runs into them at the hotel. Apparently, and maybe I have this point right, was he sent there to kill the Russians?
Yes, so he's a package runner normally, and basically the mob wants to get rid of him because he knows too much.
The Italian mob wants to get rid of him, so they basically send him on a suicide mission.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Because at one point they tell him, the Irish brothers, that was like, they sent you to, there were 9 Russians, and they sent you with a 6-shooter. Obviously, they were sending you to get killed. Okay.
Yep. And he tries to defend it like, oh, no, they don't work that way. Maybe they didn't know there's going to be that many. And like, no, they knew. They knew 100%. This was to send him in, suicide mission, get killed. The shooter is dead at the scene. No further investigation.
And was
that was the thought process of why to send him in.
Okay, so it wasn't to start like a war with the Russians. It was just to get rid of this guy because he knew too much.
Well, it was kind of both. It was get rid of as many Russians as possible from that room because it was all leadership in that room. Get rid of as many Russians as possible in that room and then shrug it off with somebody expendable.
Okay. So then when they're talking about what happened at the hotel, and was it Rocco?
Yeah.
I call him Funny Man because that's what he calls himself a lot.
Yep.
So he's like super impressed that they killed the 9 Russians, and they're talking about all the stuff, and he's talking about, it's like, well, I kind of to your point, it's like, well, if you guys are looking to kill a lot of people, I know a lot of bad people, because like you said, that's the whole reason why he was sent there is because he knows so much about the Italian mafia. So the scene, so they're back at someone's apartment. I think it might be Rocco's. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's Rocco's and his girlfriend's.
Yeah, because that's where the cat is. So this is the problem. So they're all around, they're getting drunk and they're talking about stuff around the table. And initially I was pissed off because Rocco repeatedly blows cigarette smoke into the face of an actual cat. That pissed me off. Then, while basically all drunk, and all three of them are just doing dumb shit with guns at the table.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rocco, I think he like pounds on the table.
Yeah.
And one of the guns goes off accidentally and the cat explodes. Obviously not for real, but it makes it look like the cat was shot and his body explodes all across the wall. So at that point, me being someone who is very active with the Animal Rescue League in Iowa and a cat lover, was like, fuck this movie. So I was like,
with both fingers.
With both fingers.
You guys
Double-barreled fuck this movie.
You guys couldn't see that, but
Yes.
that was definitely aimed towards me for some reason.
No, I was doing this. I wasn't doing this. That's a joke from the movie, a visual joke from the movie, which works really well in an audio podcast. But at that point, if I was just watching the movie, like if we weren't doing it for the podcast, I would have just stopped watching. Because I would have been like, fuck off. Because I wasn't really enjoying the movie. I just kind of thought the movie was stupid. But when that scene happened, I was like, fuck off. So I would have stopped watching. But at that point, I have to be considered an unreliable reviewer from that moment from the movie on. Because from that point on, fully hate watching the movie.
Yeah. What that scene does for me is it shows how unprofessional and how
dumbass.
Yeah.
All three of them are.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, they don't really know what they're doing with guns. They don't really know, like, the fact that the guns were loaded that whole time when they were doing what they were doing just kind of shows that, like, oh, they're just along for the ride. Like, they don't really have any idea what they're doing at all. And it shows, and it's interesting because the movie shows that the two brothers are extremely intelligent, but also not really doing anything for themselves. Not doing themselves any favors, getting themselves into bad situations. Usually ends in a positive way for them. They're able to kind of work their way out of it, but not really. There is and I think that might be part of it too, is I get it confused because there is a director's cut, I believe, that has extended scenes. Or no, it's extended scenes in the DVD. That shows a little bit more of that stuff. And I sometimes kind of forget that that's not in the regular version of the movie. Some of those extended scenes. It does show kind of towards the beginning in those extended scenes, like they know multiple languages. They grew up like extremely proper and like brought up really well. But like there's a deleted scene with like what they call their mom.
Oh,
on St. Patrick's Day, and they're talking to her and like she's extremely drunk and they're going back and forth. And this, I really wish they hadn't because it's kind of funny, but it kind of shows like they're like, come on, which one of us came out first? Which one of us is older? And she's like, all right, I guess it's finally time for me to tell you. And she kind of pauses for a second and goes, whichever one was the biggest cock, and hangs up the phone. And it just so happens that they both were sitting there because like they were like taking showers when the phone rang. And they kind of glanced down at each other and was like, oh, shut up, I've been cold. So it's kind of like an ongoing thing where I forget that that's not in the movie. So I think that when we were recording last time, I was really confused. Like I wanted to bring up like their mother, and I didn't remember why couldn't figure out why you didn't know what I meant.
Because that was one of the things, I mean, not to jump ahead, but we're going to talk about their father in a few minutes. Going back to my misogyny remarks from earlier when I said that essentially no women in the movie. Yeah, I mean, I did not see that extended scene. And which when we got to talk about their father, I was actually going to even bring up, it's like, gee, it would have been kind of nice to have learned something about their mother. So I didn't even know that extended scene was not there. But I think your description of that extended scene maybe kind of points out another sort of general remark I would make about the movie, that the humor in the movie is incredibly juvenile.
Oh yeah, it is. 100%.
Even in the movie, even in the stuff that's not in the extended scenes. That extended scene, incredibly fucking juvenile. But almost all of the humor in the movie is incredibly juvenile.
But that also fits for those types of people doing those types of things.
Maybe.
Oh, I know people like that.
Well, again, 100%. Like I said, maybe that appeals to a certain demographic more so. But to me, it's like
no. What I'm saying is that makes it more realistic.
Okay. Again, like I said, I just thought the movie was stupid before the cat scene. Again, in 1999, when this movie came out, I would have been in my late 20s. You would have been in your late teens.
Yeah.
I obviously did not watch movies the same way as a teenager as I did in my 20s, 30s, and I'm now in my mid 50s. So I can't speak to maybe I would have found stuff like that funny if I was a teenager when I saw it. I didn't see it until I was 55 years old. So
That's
I can't
fair,
really
yeah.
speak to. There's a lot of dumb movies that I saw when I was a teenager in my early 20s that have problematic elements and juvenile humor in them. So it's not like this movie is the
Yeah.
only one in the universe.
There's also
Well, nor am I trying to say that I have like a more sophisticated sense of film and humor. No, I watched
Yeah.
this movie once when I was 55.
yeah, and there's also like because you do laugh at some juvenile humor.
Oh, yeah.
but I think the fact that you didn't like the movie made the juvenile humor worse because you didn't like the movie to start with.
Oh yeah, I think that's probably true.
One other thing I want to hit on too, real quick, because we talked about it earlier, and again, I kind of forget what was actually in the movie and what was in the extended scenes. Is when I mentioned about the rule of thumb misogynistic thing at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That is another one of the cut down scenes that's in the extended scenes.
Oh, okay. I this something. Maybe
Yeah.
was it something I forgot? What's that?
Yeah. So basically, like they're at the meatpacking plant,
Mm-hmm.
and like they're training this woman, like how to do it. And they're like, "Well, the rule of thumb is," and she's like, "Wait, rule of thumb? Do you know where that comes from? Back in whenever it was, you could beat your wife with a stick as long as it was no bigger than your thumb."
That's in the movie.
And then he goes, "Oh, there's more
Oh,
going
there's more.
on there."
Oh, there's more.
And then he kind of looks at her and goes, looks at his thumb. He's like, rule of thumb, can't really do much damage with that. Maybe it should have been rule of wrist. Fully joke. And then she starts like pushing them. They're like, hold on. We're just joking. Everybody's Irish on St. Patty's Day. We're just trying to have a good time here. And then she like punches him in the face, and then it starts a fight. And then they get fired from the job.
Oh, that's not in the movie.
Exactly. That's the extended clip. So that's what I'm saying. Like it's not really as misogynistic as it seems because there's more to it.
I guess that's more of an editing question. Then why not just
Yeah.
cut that whole scene?
Probably
Yeah, because
because it didn't really do anything for the movie as a whole, and they had to cut it down to a certain time frame.
Yeah, because that all happens like very early, like before the whole Russian thing. It's like there were scenes like that. It's just like, again, this goes back to my other point. It's like maybe a more experienced writer director would have just cut that stuff out of the movie, but I don't know. But yeah, I didn't see that
Yeah.
either. I only saw the small part of it, rule of thumb thing about beating your wife that was in the movie.
Yeah, that's all I was saying is like there's a lot of things I think in that I'm gonna get mixed up because I understand more about the intention because of the deleted scenes. There's a lot of deleted scenes and
Oh,
extended
okay.
scenes. So maybe that's also helping with the difference in viewpoints on it.
Okay.
So we get through the first murder scene with the Russian mob. We get through the drunken dumbassery. And then Rocco kind of goes on his little murder spree when he finds out that he was throwing them to the wolves, kills people. And then things just kind of progress further and further down the rabbit hole as they continue their killing of evil men. And going back to what I was saying about like, okay, we've seen all this evidence of they're not good at it. They don't really know what they're doing, but somehow everything they're doing is just working for the two brothers. They go into the jerk-off club scene where they're going to target one specific person.
Peep shows.
Yep.
Peep show parlor, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, jerk off club
Whatever.
scene.
I've
probably
never
works.
been to one. I don't know what it's called. So they go in and they kill the one guy, and then Rocco kills the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're investigating, they're trying to figure out. He's like, "What's going on? We got good shooting here, and then shitty shooting here. What's the difference?" And then that's kind of where you think is like, "Oh, because they're guided. Rocco is not."
Mm-hmm.
To me, that kind of works out in my head. It's shown they don't really know what they're doing, but somehow they're just extremely accurate in everything they're doing.
Right, and again, that's another one. The next to last scene that Willem Dafoe accurately breaks down forensically of exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Although, like you said, he was confused. It's like at least two different shooters were involved because the person, Ron Jeremy, who's the guy who they actually came to kill,
Yeah.
who was the other, basically the lieutenant to the Italian mafia that Rocco wanted to kill, was their intended target. The brothers took him out, but then Rocco takes out just two other random dudes who came to the peep show.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're evil, again, you can make the whole argument of that the mobsters were evil. And I think there's even like a scene somewhere in the movie where they talk about who is it that we're going to kill? Like killers, murderers, rapists? Like where's the line?
Well, that was
we're gonna draw?
kind of earlier where they're like, where Rocco's like, well, so who are you targeting here? And they're like, oh, we don't have a system yet. Those ones just kind of fell into our laps. And he's like, me, I'm the guy. I know everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a pivotal thing too when you talk about like for you it was like a really hard line cross for Willem Dafoe's character.
We're gonna get to that in a minute.
Which this scene kind of sets up because he's like, what do these people have in common? This guy was mafia. These two guys were just low life thugs. Like they weren't even involved. Like what is the difference? And then one of the cops goes, maybe that's what it is. They're all bad guys.
But there was also a scene prior to that when Rocco first goes to like a bar/restaurant to find out if he actually was double crossed by the Italian mob. He gets mad and he kills 3 people, 2 low-level mafia guys, but the one that pisses off, and understandably from my perspective, pissed off Willem Dafoe, he also killed the bartender.
Yeah.
And Willem Dafoe is like, okay, I understand why they killed, whoever did this, killed those 2 pieces of shit because they're low-level mafia thugs. Why the fuck did they kill the bartender?
Yeah.
And then later, why the fuck did they kill the 2 other guys at the peep show? So for a brief moment there seemed to be okay, the gangsters make sense, but why are they also killing non-gangsters?
Yeah.
That goes away. But at least for a moment there seemed to be, Willem Dafoe seemed to have a problem with who they're killing.
Yeah. And there's also that scene, that transition scene when Willem Dafoe drunkenly goes to the church and goes to the confessional and he's kind of talking to him and he's like,
while Rocco is holding the priest at gunpoint.
Yep. And the priest is kind of like, well, what do you think they would harm anybody innocent? And he goes, well, no, absolutely not. Well, the Italian guy might. He's kind of an idiot, which then kind of goes to show like he's for the brothers, not necessarily the Rocco.
I mean, I was kind of confused by that scene too. It's like one of the Irish brothers is holding a gun to Rocco, who's holding a gun to the priest. So if it was Rocco there by himself, would he have killed the priest? Because it kind of seemed...
I don't think so.
I kind of call that the weak heel turn because like Willem Dafoe's character to me was relatively interesting until that point in the movie where that heel turn moment where he just like, oh yeah, I guess I should just help them. I didn't really understand why. Because again, I was like, what's this movie supposed to be about? So it's like that. I found his character interesting when he was trying to hunt him and he was doing all the forensic investigation. When he just basically flips the switch and decides to help them, I just didn't buy that from a storytelling perspective.
So, and that gets into what I think is one of the main problems of the movie in itself. It kind of goes to something that you said in our previous recording about like how quickly he heals after jumping from the roof and how quickly he finds out who's doing the murders and then all of a sudden wants to help them. It's like one of the problems is we don't know how much time is being taken between scenes. We don't know, was this one day? Was this a week? Was it a month? Like we have no idea what the time frame is.
The only thing that seems to happen in rapid succession is when they leave the police station, they get a phone call that like the next day the Russians are going to be at the hotel. So they figure out when the meeting at the hotel is going to happen. Then it seems like the next day Rocco goes to the bar to figure out that he actually got screwed over by the Italian mafia.
Yeah.
Then after that, it gets a little fuzzy in terms of the time between scenes. But I think
even the time between the police station and the hotel, I think that's a lot longer time than it looks like.
I only saw the movie once. I thought it was a sense of urgency because they got the things like, oh, there's a meeting happening at this time. We got to go prep for it and go there right now. But again, I only saw the movie once.
Yeah. And it doesn't say, and that's what I'm saying. I think that's one of the problems. It doesn't say like, was that tomorrow? Was it? And that's where I say, because you think about it, he's limping. Like he still has to be basically carried out of there that day. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he's perfectly fine. And they're fully clothed and decked out and buying all the guns and everything and the rope that they need. Mm-hmm. And then going in and doing that. I mean, they gotta have time. Like they gotta look at the floor plans of the hotel to figure out where the ducks are, to how to get where they're going. They gotta figure out like, hey, where do we go to even get the guns? Like they gotta figure all that stuff out. Like he's gotta heal. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
I could be wrong, but I thought that it was a sense of urgency because it was like, oh, tonight at 7:30 we're at this hotel. I didn't really think that they had much time. But again, I only watched the movie once.
Yeah, but I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Is that's the problem. Is it doesn't say.
And then again, I think it's kind of implied that whatever that night was that they killed the Russians at the hotel. It seems like the very next day Rocco goes and does his thing at the bar. How much time passes between when they then start using Rocco as the source to go around killing people then things maybe get a little bit fuzzy.
Yep.
But
And-
a couple of things seem to at least happen in consecutive days.
And where I was going with that is also that, like, when Willem Dafoe finds out, oh, they're the ones,
Mm-hmm.
and then between that time and when he decides to help them, like, we don't know how much time that really was. It kind of implies, like, he finds out, goes get drunk that night, and then the next morning goes to the church and decides right away. But we don't really know for sure.
Plus, there's also this indeterminate amount of time where the head of the Italian mafia decides to get a contract killer out of prison who's been in prison for like 25 years and that the mafia has used in the past to make problems go away. There would have had to have been, so I guess it's implied that he was up for parole and they got him released on parole. So you would have thinking that probably would have taken a little bit of time in doing. Then that guy, which we find out later to jump ahead, is their dad. He would have needed time to gear up and get ready and track them down. But in the movie, it all seems to happen like right away. But yeah, this probably had to have been some time. Plus, after the peep show parlor, their next attack must have also required planning because they go track down like it's a poker game with lots of bad guys, including like one of the worst contract killers that the Italian mafia used. Why the Italian mafia didn't just have that guy go after the brothers, but who knows? But yeah, some planning would have had to go into that. So yeah, I don't know. It's an indeterminate amount of time there. So yeah, maybe the heel turn of Willem Dafoe wasn't as quick as I thought it was happening because there had to be time between scenes. So maybe there was some extended time. I don't know.
And as we're kind of there, and he goes into that house when they're going into the house to kill that guy, and then that's when the father shows up and they have the big gunfight. And again, when I say before about like they're on a mission from God, we've got 3 characters that are shown to be like extremely accurate shooters, all shooting each other and completely missing.
Right.
Which then shows like, oh, they're not only being guided in hitting what they need to hit, but also being protected, making sure that nothing's actually hitting them.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of the brothers get winged.
Yeah, one gets shot in the leg, one gets shot in the arm.
Right. Which then they treat by using an iron that you iron
cauterize
clothes with to cauterize the wounds, and then they're fine with no lasting effects of that.
Again,
injury.
we don't know the time frame after that.
Again, an indeterminate amount of time.
Yeah.
But again, it's another one of those like silly/stupid things, other than, again, the whole on a mission from God excuse for why they didn't just get shot and killed. And but yeah.
And then that also,
and then that's where we get the heel turn that guy is their dad.
That's in the next scene.
The Italian mafia guy captures all 3 of them, Bracco and the brothers.
Sets a trap for them.
Sets a trap for them, captures all 3 of them. And again, because it's a movie and it has to keep going, why they wouldn't just kill all 3 of them and be done with it, because then the movie would be over. They only kill Rocco? And then Willem Dafoe, in one of the super homophobic scenes, shows up dressed like a woman to seduce the Italian guys and help them get away, blah, 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 blah. And then when they're, I guess, killing the other Italian guys, but not the Italian guy who killed Rocco, their father comes in and hears them doing the prayer?
No, so the Italian guys come in, shoot Rocco.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they were saying, I think, was like they were going to try to get information from him. That's why they kept him alive.
Okay.
They get themselves out of the handcuffs and everything, and they're bent down and they're saying their prayer for Rocco.
Oh, for Rocco.
For Rocco.
And their dad comes in.
And their dad comes in, comes around the corner, hears the prayer, knows that it's the family prayer, that nobody else knows it, puts his guns away, comes up and finishes the prayer so they know that he's their dad. Like, they didn't know he was their dad. And so they hear the prayer, they all know that they're family. Okay, now we're in this together. Go on from there. So again, it's kind of one of those things that I benefit from having seen it a bunch of times.
Okay.
So it makes more sense. And there's probably an extended scene for that too that I've seen that makes it make even more sense.
And then does it sort of like jump ahead to
the court scene?
The court scene. So the head of the Italian mafia has been arrested and he's going to court to be put on trial, I guess. And then at that point, not only is Willem Dafoe helping them, but the Boston police is also helping them, because the Boston police drive the brothers and their dad in a paddy wagon to the courthouse, let them into the courthouse, and then the 3 of them basically do their really long family murder prayer with the Italian mob guy on his knees and kill him.
So there's also, it seems like a really drastic flip for Willem Dafoe, but really we don't know the time frame of it, but he decided, okay, I'm going to help them, but he doesn't really know in what way. He's going there to try to save them because he realizes what's happening. So
At the courthouse?
No, 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 no. I'm at the house. Sorry,
Oh.
at the house. Like he was there. He was there just to help them get out of trouble, not to necessarily join their crusade.
Yes.
But then he has to shoot somebody, and he has that little line. He's like, "I've gone too far. I've gone too far. I'm in this now."
Oh, okay.
You might have missed it.
Okay.
So after he shoots the person, he's like putting the wig back on. He's like, "Too far. I've gone too far. I'm in this now." That's when the switch flips, where he's like, "I'm part of this now. I can't get out of it."
I can see him needing to let them go and not arrest them at the house, but why is he helping them at the courthouse? Why is he and also the Boston Police Department?
So he's helping them at the courthouse because now he's part of it because he's involved now. He has shot somebody. He has killed somebody.
So why are the Boston cops helping?
Because they believe in the cause. I took it as like he convinced them to help as well.
Okay.
That's the way I took it. Like, because the cops liked them.
Well, like I said, at the beginning of the movie, they're getting high fives and coffee and donuts for obviously acting in self-defense to kill the Russian guys.
If I remember right, there's a couple like throwaway little lines too of like, yeah, I'm kind of rooting for these guys, type stuff from the cops here and there.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of show like they're on board. Like I think one of them says like they're doing what we can't do or something like that. So there's different things in there through it that kind of show it, but they're little throwaway things that if you don't catch it, you don't notice it. And then we get, again, going to that courthouse scene. It shows them helping. And what you don't see, which I wish it had, they hit on it in the sequel, which don't ever watch the sequel. It's terrible. I kind of want you to watch it because you're just going to full on. If you hated this one, the second one, like it is pure rage. But in the second one, they kind of show like after that courthouse scene, like all of them involved are now on the run. All the police, Willem Dafoe, like everybody is now in hiding because like it's known that they helped do all this stuff.
That would make logical sense.
So it should have ended with showing them like, some sort of like wanted poster or something. Like it shows the dad and the brothers hiding in a motel.
Mm-hmm. Planning their next move. Obviously setting up a sequel, saying, like, where do we go from here? What do we do?
And so in the sequel, that's kind of what's shown is there.
And this might be one of those things I had mentioned before, like a better writer-director might have had a scene like that where like all of them, the cops, Willem Dafoe, the brothers and the dad all got back together at the end and said, okay, now we're all in this and we're all going to have to go on the run or something to maybe make more sense. But I guess they just do that in the sequel. So
that being the story that was actually there, what's the story that you wanted it to be after you read that cover?
It was just a matter of like, it sounded like an interesting premise to me. And I was just, and again, I don't even know if the cat scene happens at the halfway point. I forget how long the movie is, but I was just confused by the uneven tone. Like I had said before, it's like, is this a farce? Is this satire? Mm-hmm. Is it a comedy? Is this a drama? The unevenness of Willem Dafoe's performance, where then it seemed like it would be maybe in a more traditional movie, he would have continued to fight him instead of becoming a more and more comical and homophobic version of his character. And then he just gets turned off in terms of he no longer does any big acting scenes. He's just quietly watching them kill people at the courthouse. It's like, so like the entire movie, like again, the things I didn't like, the problematic elements you could pull out, the cat scene you could pull out. If they weren't in the movie at all, I would still think the movie is stupid because I didn't really find the story to be good. I just found it dumb.
To summarize, I think you'd said in the first recording that you wanted it to be more of like a cat and mouse, like Willem Dafoe pursuing the brothers more than it really was, which I think
it's because it started out that way and it just stops.
Yeah. I guess the reason I like the way that it actually went versus that is we've seen that so many times in so many different movies. Mm-hmm. I kind of like the idea of like, oh, I kind of believe in what they're doing. Maybe I'll help.
Again, a better writer-director could have made a better movie out of this premise.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I think, but going back to what we said before, it probably had a low budget. I just thought it was just a poorly written and poorly executed movie. I didn't like the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm an unreliable reviewer from the cat scene forward, because from that point forward, the second half of the movie could have been phenomenal, and I would have fucking hated it anyway, because the cat scene pissed me off.
That's fair.
So I can't really be relied on for giving a reliable opinion about this movie because that scene pissed me off. Up until that point, I just thought it was a dumb movie.
Yeah.
The rest of the movie I didn't like because I had decided to hate it, but it's difficult to say. But even if I could edit the cat scene out and edit the problematic elements out, I think what it would have been left over, I just would have just been like, I didn't think the movie was all that great.
And
I wouldn't have hated it, but I definitely wouldn't have enjoyed it. But I would have been like, I didn't like that.
What I was just kind of thinking about it, though, is if that was more of that cat and mouse type thing, like this could easily be like a serialized episodic show that could keep going. Like, oh, what's this week's murder spree? And how are they going to get away from the police? Basically, the A-team.
Well, I think part of the problem was, again, going back to what I was saying about how the movie is uneven. Willem Dafoe is being Willem Dafoe. No one else in the movie is, I don't want to say is not a good actor, but there is no one else in the movie who is at the caliber of Willem Dafoe. So there is no counterpoint to him. The brothers are not a good, like, intellectual opponent. But that's not what the movie is. It's like, There's no one to rise up to the... Willem Dafoe is a very singular talent. So it would be very difficult to construct a movie where you have someone being the anti-Dafoe. But the fact that he's the only part, and it's mostly in the first half of the movie, was like some interesting acting choices, but he's making those scenes work. There is no other acting in the entire movie that I think is worthy of note on any level. But again, they didn't probably spend any money, even though Billy Connolly, who plays their father, is a famous actor. He's not really put to much use as their dad. But again, overall, maybe with a better cast and better writer and director, maybe. But it would be a different movie, so it's not even fair to say that.
Well, I see what you're saying. I would argue that nobody in the movie is doing a bad job in the acting department. Yeah, they're not taking like huge scenes and big flamboyant movements and everything like that because Willem Dafoe is Willem Dafoe. And maybe it's because he's so flamboyant that you want others to do that. But
no, I don't know if I would say he's the only one who's, again, I'm critical of the movie because I don't like it. I thought it was poorly written. Willem Dafoe is an actor who can take a poor script and make watchable scenes out of it. He's not the only one, but there are actors like that who can take crappy writing and still turn it into an interesting performance. No one else in the movie, although Billy Connolly, who plays her dad, is an incredible actor. The other actors are not given anything to work with because the script doesn't have anything for them to do. So that's what I mean. So part of it is there's only so much you can do when that's the script, and then the writer of the script is also the person who directed the movie. He's obviously not going to ask them to do something different than the script. My whole babbling is that, again, Willem Dafoe is the only person in the movie, at least in the first half, who has some scenes that are at least interesting from an acting perspective. But I blame the story, but it's because I don't like the movie. So again, like I said, I am an unreliable reviewer because I fucking hated this movie because of the cat scene.
So I'm replaying the movie in my head. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at the acting. And again, I'm going to go back to, like, what do I think of as good acting? And to me, good acting is staying in character, making the character believable, making it a complete character with a personality and little tics that they do, little things that they do that, are singular to that character, and being able to kind of make themselves a different person than what they normally are. And it's hard to say whether or not they're acting well for most of them because we've never seen them in anything else. I would say the two brothers are doing a very good job at it. They're very consistent, other than Norman Reedus does lose his accent a couple times because it's not his normal accent. He's not really known for doing accents. So I would say that does kind of flounder a little bit. But I'd say otherwise, like, yeah, the lines aren't always the best, but they're delivered in character and they're delivered in a believable way. So I would say the acting isn't bad. It's not fantastic, but it's not bad.
I only seen it once and now it's been a month.
Yeah.
The recording that we lost the first time we attempted to do this, I had literally seen the movie the night before.
Yeah.
I might have been able to provide you with more specific details. I cannot now because it has been a month and I was not going to rewatch the movie and I didn't like it. So I cannot defend my position with specific details other than to say the only acting that I remember as acting was Willem Dafoe. Maybe everybody else was good. I don't know. I watched it once a month ago. I'm never fucking watching this movie again. So like I said, I am an unreliable reviewer of a movie that I greatly disliked. So take everything I have said with a grain of salt.
And the other side of things, on my side, I like this movie. I've seen it a bunch of times, so maybe I'm love watching it instead of hate watching it.
Possibly.
Yeah. And I think the final thing to really talk about here is the sequels, which we kind of hit on already. Of the one that nobody should ever watch. It's absolutely terrible.
Wait, so why is there's only been one official sequel, which you have
Yes.
seen. So why is the sequel bad? You alluded a little bit to it. It seemed like a natural continuation of the story. They're on the run.
Yeah, and I don't remember a lot of it because I only watched it once and
Oh,
I never
really?
wanted to watch it again.
Oh, okay.
I might have seen it twice. I don't remember. I kind of want to watch it again just to remember. Like maybe it was because I wanted it to be so much more like the first one that I hated it afterwards. But it seems like everybody else agrees with me. And really the biggest problems is like they replaced Rocco and they replaced Willem Dafoe's character with people that are kind of trying to do imitations of them in a way. And it's extremely annoying instead of actually like it just takes you out of the movie the whole time.
Actually, I have to give credit to the actor who played Rocco. He actually did a good job. It was a stupid character, but I actually think he did a good job acting with what he did. So I'll take that back. Willem Dafoe, and unfortunately, the actor who played Rocco, the funny guy, he actually did some acting. That guy was good. So yeah, I take that back. So
And-
I understand they had to replace him because he gets killed in the first
Yep.
movie. So Willem Dafoe is like barely in the sequel.
I don't remember how much he is. He's kind of like I said. He with the other cops are in hiding somewhere like in the Bahamas or something like that.
Oh, okay.
And like he is kind of shown like he's guiding this other agent remotely, basically like helping out, making sure like, hey, this is what you should do. This is how you should help them.
Is that other agent trying to catch the brothers, or are they working with the brothers?
Yes. Making it look like going after them while actually like blocking the investigations. I believe something along those lines.
And the father is with them too, so it's father and the brothers together.
I believe so. And then they kind of pick up another like person who's into crime that knows everybody.
Oh,
who's
so a
just
Rocco replacement.
Yep.
Okay.
Who's just extremely annoying through the whole thing. Absolute idiot, which tracks. I mean, that's what Rocco was too. So I don't remember a lot of it. I just remember being extremely annoyed with those two characters. And I remember just thinking that it lost its path. Like it kind of went in a different direction than I would have wanted it to, probably.
Well, that's interesting. The two characters that I thought did the best acting in this movie are not in the sequel.
Yeah.
And the people who replaced them you didn't like.
And also I think if I remember right, to your point, like it's not written well, and you can almost see the frustration in the actors in having to deliver the lines they're delivering.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a level of that too. So moving on to it looks like there's pre-production of another sequel, which depending on where you look, sometimes it looks like it's like a sequel, like a third in the trilogy. And in other places, it looks like they might be looking at like, hey, let's look at the beginnings of this. Let's go back to the origin. I don't really know what it's going to be. I haven't really looked at it. And really briefly looking at it right before we started recording, it does look like the same writer is helping write it, but is also having assistance in writing it by Sean Patrick Flannery, which hopefully that actually helps. So we will see how that goes. I mean, I'll see it.
And again, like you had said, it was a cult classic that eventually did very well in DVD sales,
Yeah.
which is probably why they made a sequel. And even though that might not have been well received, the original movie is still considered a cult classic. So
Yeah.
you can understand why they would want to make another one. But I also think I had read that they had been trying for years and they just couldn't agree on the script.
Yeah, the sequel was like a decade later. It was a mess. And if I remember right, I think I was upset that it wasn't in theaters. I might be remembering this completely wrong.
Mhm.
We know my memory. But I think I remember like getting the DVD, putting it in, watching it, going, "Oh, that's why it wasn't in theater."
I mean, there is a solid market for direct-to-DVD movies.
Oh, there was.
Yeah, there was. Now it's more direct to streaming, which is a whole other Hollywood kerfuffle at the moment.
Yeah.
But
kerfuffle.
Yeah, kerfuffle. I don't understand why the original one is considered a cult classic, but again, maybe I just saw it too late. I don't know. You've already told me and all of us to not watch the second movie. I will not watch the third movie, but who knows? Maybe you'll watch the third movie and tell me that it actually turned out to be a really good movie. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. And you might be able to enjoy the sequel for how bad it is. Like you could probably do like a mystery science theater type watch where it's like, oh, this is ridiculous, and enjoy it for that purpose. And maybe that's what I'll do when I do rewatch it. But you're not going to enjoy it for being a good movie. That's for sure.
Yeah, this movie was not even a good bad movie for me, because sometimes bad movies can be enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I could see that. If you don't like this kind of movie, you will hate it. I'm kind of curious. So you have not seen Lock, Stock.
No, I have not.
Have you seen Snatch?
That's a Guy Ritchie movie, right?
Yes.
Are both of those Guy Ritchie movies?
Yes.
I'm not a big Guy Ritchie fan. I have seen at least one Guy Ritchie movie. Maybe it was Snatch. I don't remember.
Okay. I was just kind of curious when you're low. It's like that might be a rabbit hole to go down to just to let your hate flow even more. But yeah, those are. I actually don't like Lock, Stock nearly as much as I like Snatch. Snatch is one of my favorite movies as well. All right. Well, I think that's everything I want to say.
That's definitely more than I wanted to say about this dumpster fire of a movie. I will have to end the scene that everyone always mocks or highlights. Is there's a scene at that fight where their dad shows up for the first time to try to kill them when Willem Dafoe is doing his last forensic breakdown. He's like, there was a firefight! And that scene is like always shown as like the pivotal or scene that everyone always brings up when you look at this movie. That made me think of, it was a dumpster fire! And that's my final thought on Boondock Saints. Thank you for listening to The Fanboy and the Hater. Check out our archives to listen to older episodes, and tune in every Thursday for a brand new episode.
Thanks.